Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, I have something extra special for you. Tonight, our guest is Jennifer Cramer-Miller, FSGS patient, multiple kidney transplant recipient, award-winning author of The Incurable Optimist, Living with Illness and Chronic Hope, kidney advocate, speaker, and joy seeker. At the age of 22, Jennifer Cramer-Miller was thrilled with her new job, charming boyfriend, and Seattle apartment. Then she received a devastating autoimmune diagnosis, FSGS, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. FSGS refers to a scarring or sclerosis of the glomeruli in your kidneys and damage to renal podocytes. This process damages the filtration function of the kidney, resulting in protein presence in the urine due to protein loss. FSGS is a leading cause of excess protein loss or nephrotic syndrome in children and adults in the United States. It also is a strange disease because it will cross over to your transplanted kidney in the event that you do not have proper treatment. A long-term complication of this disease is renal failure, and Jennifer is no exception. Her kidney story begins with the sudden jolt of a diagnosis and a disturbing initial hospitalization dealing with words like progressive and incurable. Suddenly, rather than planning for a bright future, she found herself in a spiral of ongoing kidney problems in her kidney disease experience. Jennifer has endured this for over 3 decades, suffering and loss as a result of 4 kidney transplants in the last 35 years. However, Jennifer was taught not only to overcome obstacles, but to thrive, contributing positively to the lives of others. Currently, Jennifer is a married woman, a mother, and has a long and fulfilling career in the custom home building business as a client and marketing consultant, and as a remarkably great writer. As a kidney advocate, she is a speaker, consultant, and board chair of the National Kidney Foundation serving Minnesota. Plus, she is an all-in gratitude advocate, which you will see tonight. Quote, "My first 2 kidney transplants were from deceased donors. My third, a living donation from my mother. And a fourth, a paired exchange donation from my husband. They all feel like miracles, and I am so grateful to be alive and happy to report we'll celebrate the 13th anniversary of the kidney I received indirectly from my husband in August." Jennifer tells me that was just 5 days ago.
5 days ago, big celebration.
But her most definitive contribution to the kidney community may very well be her memoir, Incurable Optimist, Living with Illness and Chronic Hope, published in August of 2023. This is a very successful book that received a starred review from Publishers Weekly, an International Impact Award, a Book Excellent Award, and a Book Fest First Place Award. Not only that, but Jennifer is a prolific writer. Her essays are featured in the HuffPost, Zibby Mag, Brevity Blog, the Sunlight Press, Next Adventure, Grown and Flown, the Irma Bombeck blog, Star Tribune, Minnesota Physician, Marmalade, and Medium. As a patient advocate, Jennifer helps others manage uncertainty, harness hope, and move forward with joy. For more information about Jennifer, check out her website, JenniferCramerMiller.com. And if you go to my Facebook page, pinned to the top of my Facebook page is this broadcast. In the comments to the broadcast, I put all my research. So if you want to find Jennifer, or you want to drill down on Jennifer, or you want to buy her book, the links are all included there. You'll see them during the course of this broadcast, but that goes by kind of quick sometimes. So if you need a little bit more time, it's available to you. And I do recommend that book, by the way. I've read it. It's great. Please give a warm welcome to this brilliant young author and kidney advocate, Jennifer Cramer-Miller is with us tonight. Hi,
Wow.
Jennifer. How are you?
I am doing so well, and thank you. That was quite an introduction. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm just delighted to be here with you tonight.
Did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
You were perfect. Yep, it was all spot on.
Beautiful. Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your employment experiences.
Of course. I am in Minnesota right now. I grew up in Minnesota in a suburb of Minneapolis. It's called Golden Valley. And, happy, healthy, normal childhood. And then I went to college in the Pacific Northwest, where I got a business degree and a psychology minor. And then I had a brief stint in a PR firm when I graduated from college. And then we'll get into this as we get into more of your questions. I had a big bulk of things happen after I graduated and had that PR job where all my kidney things happened. But like you said in your introduction, I've had a long career in the custom home building business, which is amazing. I love working with people on their homes. And then as a writer and author, which is all a little bit more recent. And thank you so much for the nice things that you said about my book and all the things you said. But yeah, so that's where I am right now. I'm doing a lot of work as a kidney advocate and a lot of work as a writer and author.
Excellent. Excellent. Just a ballpark. How old are you? Now, my mother told me never to ask that question, but we agreed. So
yes, no, I think it's important to know, we were talking about this, that I was 22 when I was first diagnosed with out of the blue FSGS. And it was really shocking. I was a totally healthy person before that diagnosis. And I've had it now for more than, 30 years. So I'm well into my 50s now, and I've been living with kidney disease for 35 years. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but that's why I think it's important. I really want to tell people that, yes, I'm definitely in my 50s, and I've had this since I've been in my 20s, because kidney disease is not something that kidney failure, especially, you don't get kidney failure and then it goes away. Once you have kidney failure, you always have kidney failure and you always have to manage it. So I've been managing it for quite a long time.
Are you a married lady?
Yes, I am married to a really wonderful guy. His name is Dirk. And he's kind of a star in the story as it'll go farther along. So we've got to put a pin in the name Dirk. And I'm also a mom, which you mentioned. I have a daughter, little genius daughter, I consider her. She's also one of my miracles in this life. And she lives on the East Coast now in Brooklyn. She's in her 20s.
Okay. It's my understanding that after college, you moved to Seattle. You had a new job, charming boyfriend. Please give us some idea of what your life was like at that time.
My life at that time was everything I wanted it to be as a college graduate. I felt like I was ready to launch. I, had a great experience in college. I loved getting my business degree, and I just really wanted to go out into the world and, attack the world and have a great life. And I had no reason to think that I wouldn't. I had been very healthy. So, my life was really great at that time until one day I woke up and I was puffy and I didn't know why. And that kind of kicked off the domino effect in the series of events.
Prior to your diagnosis, what was the state of your health?
It was beautiful. I mean, I had no health problems, zero.
Okay. And what period of time are we talking about? What years are we talking about before diagnosis?
This was 1987, and I got diagnosed.
Okay. I understand that you were diagnosed with FSGS, and you say that occurred in 1987. Is that correct?
Yeah, my symptoms started, and so kind of the what happened is, and I think a lot of your listeners will relate to this that have had FSGS or later stage kidney disease. I got very puffy without knowing why, and so this was in the late 80s. I went to a doctor. He said, you have kidney damage, and he realized that by a simple urine test. I had protein in my urine, and he wanted me to get a biopsy. Also will sound familiar, I'm sure, to a lot of the listeners, to determine the cause and extent of this damage. So I came home from Seattle to Minneapolis because my dad, custom home builder, had built a house for a nephrologist, and he said, let's have Dr. Brown do this biopsy. We trust him. And that biopsy was what informed me that I had FSGS, which is progressive incurable kidney disease.
Okay. What was your initial reaction to your diagnosis?
I was shocked. It felt very sudden. It was totally out of the blue. So looking back on it now, I had no idea what was ahead. I think, to be honest with you, my reaction when I was so young was, I've got something wrong with me and they're going to fix me and I'm going to get better. I did not know, all the things that were going to play from that point forward. I just thought I had to get a quick fix.
Okay. Were you hospitalized subsequent to your diagnosis?
Yes, I got the biopsy and I wasn't hospitalized after that. I, just was given a lot of prednisone, which anybody who's been on a lot of prednisone knows that can be kind of a nasty beast of a medication. And it would have been more bearable if it had worked, but it didn't work. And it was such a high dose. I had a lot of complications from the prednisone itself. So I was hospitalized quite a few times within the period of time, from infections, and I needed blood transfusions because I got very anemic. I had so much fluid on board. I was hospitalized to try to draw fluid off, which ultimately they pulled off 30 pounds of fluid. So there's a lot going on at that time.
Okay. After you were initially diagnosed, were you placed on dialysis, and when did that happen?
Yeah, so the initial plan was, let's bombard this young woman with prednisone and see if we can turn this around. We hoped we could go into some remission, but that didn't happen. And I had kidney failure within 6 months after my diagnosis. So at that 6-month point where I had complete kidney failure, I did go on dialysis. And these were the days where there wasn't a DaVita clinic on every corner, or Fresenius clinic. It was mostly in-hospital dialysis centers. So I went to a local hospital here in Minneapolis for dialysis.
Okay. What modality were you placed on, and how frequent was your dialysis?
It was hemodialysis, and I did it 3 times a week. It was about 3 hours at a time. And it was a hard way to live as a then 23-year-old.
Okay. And I understand that you took your dialysis at a hospital unit for about a year and 6 months?
Yeah, I think it was actually, it was a little more than that. I think I was on dialysis for 6 months before I got onto a list. So ballpark, it was just under 2 years on dialysis.
Okay. When were you first listed for your very first kidney transplant?
Yeah, so that was 6 months after I started dialysis. My nephrologist said, and this is not what they do today. He wanted me to do dialysis for 6 months before I got on a list, kind of get my body acclimated. That's why this 30 plus years of kidney management comes into play, because that's changed. Today, we know that to get a preemptive transplant is a lot better than going on dialysis if you can avoid it. But at that time, that wasn't the current thinking. So 6 months after I got on dialysis, I was placed on the list.
Okay. And where initially were you listed?
I was listed at the University of Minnesota Medical Center.
Okay. And how long did you wait before the transplant took place?
That was seemed really, really long at the time. It was 1 year and 8 months. And another thing about knowing, kind of all the things that have changed in the time, that would be not so long today. Today we're seeing waiting times of, 3 to 5 to 6 to, you talk to a lot of patients. People wait a long time. 1 year and 8 months was how long I waited that first time, and it felt like forever.
Okay. Approximately when did you receive the call?
Oh my gosh, I'll never forget that call. It was 1 year and 8 months later. I was, I had a beeper. Those were the days of the beeper. We didn't have cell phones then. And I was always like so nervous my beeper would go off. But I actually got a phone call from a doctor at the U of M Medical Center. And he said, we've got a really good kidney for you. If you can come on and get it, come on over. And I'll never forget how funny that sounded to me. He made it sound so casual. Like I sometimes say it was like he was my dry cleaner calling to say, if you can come pick up your dry cleaning, it's ready for you. So of course I raced right over, my mom in tow, and got to the hospital so I could get that transplant.
Let's talk a little bit about that first kidney transplant. Please tell us what it was like when you were transplanted.
Jim, it was so exciting when I got to the hospital, and I thought, this is what I've been waiting for. I thought I'm going to get this kidney. I'm going to go back to Seattle and pick up where I left off. And I got the kidney, and I was all of a sudden like they wanted me to drink a lot of fluids, and I had been so fluid restricted. And it was very thrilling. But the problem was that thrill lasted for 3 days. And on the third day, I felt puffy again. I felt something funny around my eyes. And I said to the doctor, I think something's wrong. And they said, no, the medications make you puffy. Don't worry. But Dr. Brown came in, and I said, Dr. Brown, I feel something's off. And he did a biopsy, and I had FSGS recurrence on day 3.
Okay. And the type of donor for this particular transplant, was that a deceased donor?
Deceased donor for my first transplant, yes.
Right. And FSGS then reoccurred, threatening your transplanted kidney?
Yes.
And only 3 days after transplant?
Yep. That was a hard time, Jim. That was a pretty big blow, because being as young as I was and not really expecting that outcome, that was a very hard time. I felt a lot of despair at that moment. Like I just didn't know, how am I going to move forward? How am I going to move forward if I can't have a kidney that's going to be free of this disease?
Did you lose your kidney at that time, or were there steps taken to prevent rejection?
Well, the good thing is I did not lose the kidney at that time. My doctor said, you know what? We don't know how long this kidney is going to last, but we are going to manage it with medication and, see how much time you can get with it. I didn't know if that was going to be 6 days or 6 months or 6 years. But I just vowed to move forward and make it a good experience with the kidney. And I really want to say that part of that is when you get a deceased donor kidney, I was very aware of the fact that I was on the receiving end of something that represented a lot of grief for a family that made this decision. And I really wanted to make my life the best I could in honor of the family that was, on the other end of this donation. And some of the medications that they used to manage it were helpful, and it did last 5 years and 3 months.
Okay. After the first transplant ran its course, were you placed back on dialysis?
Yes, I went back on dialysis. It was at another hospital here in the Twin Cities area. And that time I was only on for 5 months before I got that next call.
Okay. Again, was this in-center hemodialysis?
Yes. And again, it was 3 times a week for about 3 hours at a time. And back to a hard way to live. I mean, I had done it before, but it doesn't necessarily make it easier when you have to do it again.
What was your health like during this period of time? Were there issues or complications?
No, actually, I was doing pretty well. It was difficult to be on dialysis, but I did not have a lot of bad health things happening in that period of time.
Okay.
I mean, aside from what you might expect, some anemia and some fatigue, but nothing was catastrophic.
Okay. Where were you listed for your second transplant? Was that back at the University of Minnesota?
Back at the U of M. Yep.
And when did you get the call for the second kidney?
It was that quick 5 months later, I got the call again. And again, I said, yes, I can get to the hospital right away. And so I went right back to the U to get another kidney.
Okay. And when did the second kidney transplant take place?
So that was that 5 months after dialysis. So we're in the 90s at this point. And it was a deceased donor. Again, another deceased donor.
Okay. Tell us what happened the day that you were transplanted. Did everything go smoothly? Were there complications?
I was so excited that I did not have that initial hit of proteinuria for my second transplant like I did for my first. We knew that FSGS is being an autoimmune kidney disease is probably always in my blood. It's always going to be circulating. But I think one of the big differences was they had given me cyclosporin, which is an immunosuppressant, before I got the transplant, as opposed to the first one. I got that after I had been transplanted. And I think that the medical management this time reduced any kind of proteinuria hit on the first day. So it was good.
Okay. How long did this transplant last?
That my second transplant lasted a little over 7 years.
Okay. And when and where did your third kidney transplant take place?
So my third transplant, I did not go on dialysis before. What happened was, for my first transplant, they had asked if anyone in my family wanted to see if they could be a donor. My mom, who was with me every step of the way of this journey, was like, yes, please, I want to. And we didn't have enough matching antigens. By the time I got my third kidney, the criteria had changed for antigen matching, and my mom was able to give me her kidney. So it was an amazing thing that I was going to get a living donor kidney this time, no dialysis. We got to schedule the date. But I don't want to say it so flippantly, like it's really, I talked about the emotions of getting a deceased donor kidney. There's also a lot of emotions of when somebody steps up to give you their kidney. And I thought my mom had done enough for me already, and I was hesitant, and she was very, very determined. And so that was a really beautiful experience where my mom donated her kidney to me.
Wow. What a good mom.
Yeah, she's a good one.
How long did this transplant last?
That transplant lasted about 8 years. And, I wanted it to last forever because it was my mom's kidney. I wanted to hold on to it. And she was very, like she always is, very calm that, we knew it wouldn't last forever. You got 8 great years, like mission accomplished. So yeah, it was about 8 years.
With your third transplant, did you have any health issues or complications?
Well, it's a funny question because I think all of us kidney patients know there's always something that happens. And I did have some things. I had an obstruction that kind of formed in my ureter, and I had surgery to clear the obstruction. I had some, because of the obstruction before that was fixed, I had hydronephrosis and I had some UTIs, but once that situation was remedied, then it was pretty smooth sailing.
Okay. Were you placed back on dialysis after your third transplant failed?
Yes. So after that 8 years, I went back on dialysis, but it was different this time. It was, I did home hemo, trained at DaVita. And so I had never had the dialysis machine at my house before. So that was a different experience. And home hemo is, I think, a really good option for people who, if they are not able to have a transplant. I like the trend in kidney care that, there are people who are able to do it at home if they have the means, the space, and the wherewithal. And it was a good option for me.
Okay. Did you have a helper with your home hemodialysis, or were you sticking the needles yourself?
Well, my husband trained with me. He never did any needle work, but I had what they called buttonholes in my fistula. And I don't think they do that as much anymore. But so if people don't understand what it is, I'll just quickly explain. A buttonhole is where the nurse would put my needles in the exact same place for like 5 days in a row. And it creates almost like a pierced ear where there's kind of a spot to put the needle, and you can use a blunt needle. And I could use blunt needles to put my fistula needles in without it being sharp. And that made it really a lot better.
Okay. How long were you on dialysis at home before your fourth kidney transplant?
That was about 1 year and 9 months.
Okay. I understand that you had a fourth transplant as a result of a paired donation circumstance. Can you please describe for us what happened with that particular transplant?
I am so happy to describe what happened with that transplant because, like I was telling you earlier, I just feel like there's a lot of miracles that kind of swirl around us. And this definitely felt miraculous to me. What happened was my husband wanted to donate his kidney. He was very determined, but he was not a match. And so he looked into the paired exchange program, which, as you know, is when a donor and a recipient don't match, they can go into a pool of other donors and recipients. And it's kind of a rematching system. So that's what we did. And not only was I so grateful that my husband was willing to donate on my behalf, but then a 25-year-old altruistic donor just turned up at a North Dakota clinic out of the goodness of his heart, not directing it to anybody. And his kidney was a very good match for me. So my husband's kidney went to a stranger, and I received a kidney from a stranger.
Okay. Have you ever had an occasion to meet your donor since that time?
No, I did. I sent a note, and my daughter sent a note. And as you know, there's privacy rules, so I can't send it directly to the donor. And I think that, a lot of times donors want their own privacy after they do such a wonderful thing. So I haven't heard from the donor, but I think about him every day.
Okay. Were there any issues or complications with this fourth transplant?
Well, again, you ask any kidney patient that, there's always something that's happening, but I'll consider it management. So there's a lot of management. And that's because I have FSGS. So back to the, incurable piece of FSGS, it is not gone. I still have it. But in this particular transplant, which we mentioned I've had now for 13 years, which is phenomenal, it's been managed with plasmapheresis. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what that is, it's a procedure where my blood is separated. They spin off the plasma, some of it, which is where that autoimmune factor is, and replace it, give me back albumin. And that procedure really helps lower my autoimmunity. And that's kept my kidney in good shape for all these years. So I'd say that I'm not going to say complications. I'm going to say management, a lot of medical management, but that's why I'm here and why I'm smiling.
Okay. You also had IVIG treatment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I should have mentioned that with the plasmapheresis. So when they take off my plasma, I'm losing antibodies, and they don't want me to have no antibodies because obviously patients like me are already immunosuppressed. So IVIG, they give me an infusion of that after plasmapheresis to replace some of those antibodies. And the combination of those two things has been really helpful for me.
Okay. And I understand that you had a kidneyversary recently, August 25th, I think you told me.
Yes, 13 years. And
wow.
We were happy to celebrate that for sure.
What is the current state of your health? How are you doing?
I am doing well. I mean, you know what? When people ask me that, I feel like I have to redefine what health means for me. And I think anybody listening with a chronic illness will understand this. I mean, if you look at my lab work compared to maybe someone who has had zero issues, then you might see some discrepancies. I define my health by I still have my kidney, I'm managing it well, I have wonderful family and friends, and I'm able to enjoy my life. And with that criteria, my health is very good.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Incurable Optimist, Living with Illness and Chronic Hope, published in August of 2023. Why did you write this memoir about your experiences?
It's a great question. There's a couple of reasons. One, when my daughter was littler, I felt this need for her to know all the things that she didn't know. I thought one day, what if I get hit by a bus and my daughter Liza doesn't know what a miracle she is? And that made me really feel compelled to write. And then I got really into writing. I had a book coach and we were working on a lot of things. And then I realized that we all go through hard things. And I have a lot of experience with managing this uncertainty. And so I wanted to encourage other kidney patients in particular to say that, there can be a lot going on, but we can still do this. We can manage uncertainty and we can find joy. And I was doing work with the National Kidney Foundation as a peer mentor, one-on-one. And I thought, how can I get a message out more broadly? Like I want to reach more people and try to help people as they also struggle with things. So that really motivated me to get the book into the world.
Okay. If I wanted to buy a copy of your book, where would I go to buy it? And just so people know, it's listed on Amazon, and the link to Jennifer's book on Amazon is currently scrolling across your screen. And if it's going too fast, if you go to my profile on Facebook, this broadcast is pinned to the top. In the comments to the broadcast, the link's not moving. So
that's very nice. Yes,
you can find it. Jen, where else can we find it?
Yes, Amazon, as you said. If you go to my website, JenniferCRAMER-MILLER.com, and you have to remember Kramer is with a C because a lot of people do it with a K. There are links on my website to get it at Barnes & Noble and bookshop.org and all sorts of different places. So you can easily click on one of those links. It's distributed by Simon & Schuster. They have links there. And if you have a local bookstore that you really like to support, you can ask them. And if they don't have it, they can order it. So you could really get it a lot of different places. But a lot of people find Amazon to be a very easy place to get it. And it's definitely available there.
Excellent. Excellent. We mentioned in the introduction that the book has won a number of awards. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that's been very exciting for me because when you write a memoir and you like put your whole soul into a book, it's nice to get validation that people think it's a good book. So, yeah, I did get a starred review from Publishers Weekly, which was a big thrill, and then I won an International Impact Award and a Book Excellence Award. I just won a New Living Award. And one of the most fun things is there's a Book Fest award that I won that had this kind of side benefit where they took the winners' covers and put them on a billboard in Times Square. So that was something that I never imagined would happen in my lifetime. So it's been really, really a thrill. But I do want to say, like, the best part, I mean, the awards are nice. They feel really nice, but the best part is readers connecting with me on this book, whether they have kidney failure or not. I've had people reach out that have all sorts of things that they manage in their life that have related to the book. But just a couple days ago, I got an email from a woman who said that she'd had 2 transplants. She has FSGS. She was reading the book and she was on chapter 15, but she couldn't wait to reach out because she identified so much with the book and just wanted to like tell me that and said, I'm going to get back in touch with after I finish. And like those kind of connections with readers has been the most rewarding thing.
Excellent. Excellent. You also write on many other subjects in a lot of other places. I can remember before we had talked about coming on the broadcast, I read something that you wrote for the National Kidney Foundation.
Yeah.
What other places do you write and what do you write about?
Well, I love the writing I do for the National Kidney Foundation because I get to interview living donors and these superheroes. And I will just say, I know this because I've known so many living donors are like the most humble heroes you'll ever meet. But I also write a lot about slice of life things. I write about, I wrote this piece about when my parents sold the house that I grew up in, this kind of moment where they moved into senior living. And that's such a big moment when people kind of are losing that grounding spot that they grew up in. I've written things about my daughter, who has been really a champion along the way with all the kidney things, and just a lot. You can find a lot of different essays that I have out there in the world.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you have any recent or upcoming writings that you can tell us about?
Yes, I was excited. I was telling you about this earlier. I'm working on a novel, and it's just really refreshing after writing a memoir that, like I said, bears my soul, to make up a story. But the story is very much rooted in the things that I care about and the things that I've observed about what it's like to manage life in the world of transplant. So this is a story about one decision that a young girl makes to be a registered donor and how that intersects 2 families in grief and gratitude.
Wow. Wow. Let's talk a little bit about your advocacy work for a moment. I understand that you're a speaker, consultant, and board chair for the National Kidney Foundation serving Minnesota. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to tell you about that because one of the things that I think is really important for all of us that live with any kind of issue in our lives, we need to get outside of ourselves, and helping other people and helping the cause of kidney care, which I don't need to tell you this. You're such an advocate for kidney patients. But my advocacy work through the National Kidney Foundation, and I'm also a Donate Life ambassador, really feels to me like the least that I can do after people have done so much for me. I I feel like my book is about people helping people because I've been the recipient of such kindness. So it's really important to me to take my experiences and what I know and put them out into the world so that I can advocate for other kidney patients.
Excellent. Excellent. I feel the same way you do. I feel like I've been called
Yes, I can
to
tell.
do this.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by the work that you do. Like, I know you've been at it for a while, and your advocacy work is really impressive. I know it's very heartfelt work for you, and I think that that's really amazing.
Well, and our friend Kent Bressler, who made the referral, he's another stroker. I love working with Kent.
Oh my gosh, yes, Kent Bressler is an amazing human. I'm so glad to know him as well.
Talk to us a little bit about your website, JENNIFERCRAMER-MILLER.com.
Yes, so you can go to my website. You can find a lot of essays. You can find links to the book. And yeah, you can get to know me better through the website. You can also, there's a link to click on a newsletter. I have a monthly newsletter that I'd be happy to have you check that out. And another recent thing that I've worked on, I have sort of a philosophy of life that no matter how hard things are, we can always find one lovely thing a day. And if we look for one lovely thing a day, I guarantee it, you can find it. And it's a really good way to kind of do a joy grab, especially when you're going through a lot of medical things. I think we all need that. So I created a journal called One Lovely Thing that helps people kind of focus on the things that are brightening their days to feel better about things. And it also, at the beginning of it, and people think this is funny, but I think it's important when we do have a lot going on that we kind of get the stuff out too. We can't just like be gratitude 24 hours a day. So there's a little damn it dump at the beginning of this journal. And it kind of helps us balance the beauty and bummers in our days. So if you're interested in that, you can find that on my website as well.
Excellent. Excellent. One thing I noticed when I was putting together the promo for your broadcast is that you refer to yourself as a speaker and joy seeker, an all-in gratitude advocate. Can you explain to us what you mean by that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you're a person like me who has kind of been stringing along transplant to transplant, I think it's amazing to be alive. I mean, that's just pretty much the most easy way to say it, is that it is really a gift to be alive. And that is never far from my mind. So I have learned that, joy is not as far away as we think. Joy is easily available. And it might just be a really good cup of coffee in the morning, or it might be just soaking up like a summer blue sky, or, I have a really cute dog and it's just the way my dog's, wags her little tail when I come downstairs. I mean, I just think that joy seeking is the way that I approach life, because I'm just really, really grateful to be here. And I think that when you look at life through the lens that it's not automatic, joy finds you.
Wow. Is there any other means of advocacy that you operate in? Do you have anything else that you do?
Well, through the National Kidney Foundation, we do a lot of things. We have a Kidney Patient Social Summit where I get to connect with patients every year. But one of my favorite things is the Kidney Walk, and that's coming up in October. And it's such a joy-filled event, because at this walk, there's so many patients, and I really get this great lift of that we are a community. We're a community of people who are families and patients and nurses and doctors, and just a huge group of people who operate in this kidney space, lifting each other up. So I think that's one of my favorite things.
Okay, Kidney Walk coming up in the future in
in Minneapolis, and it's October 12th.
Okay. I always want to give my guests the opportunity to do this. Is there any final statement that you wish to make to our audience before we conclude the broadcast for the evening?
Yeah, I think that what I have found in sharing my story is that, it's my story. Like when I'm in a room of people, I'm probably the only one who's had 4 kidney transplants, but I'm never the only one who knows what it's like to kind of manage uncertainty and get through hard things in life. And we all have to do that. So I found this very universal connection with everybody, and I feel so uplifted to know that we're sort of all in it together. And so, especially when I'm with kidney patients and try to encourage people who maybe have just been diagnosed, that, you got to hold on. Some of it can be really hard, but we can do it. We can do it. And you're not alone. And that's one of the most important things that I like to share with people, because sometimes we feel, I know I did when I was 22, I felt like I was all alone. And now in my 50s, I know that is not the case. And there's a huge network of support. And that's really what I want people to know, is like, hang in there. And there are people, people ready to help people. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things.
Awesome. Jennifer, what a great job tonight that you have done on the broadcast. It's been a terrific educational experience, and I enjoyed working with you all week, and I hope that you keep all of us posted, and maybe sometime we'll have you come back and talk about the new book that I think you said will be out in 2026.
Yes, I would love to. I will look so forward to that. And again, thank you for all the things that you do, and I'm going to be following along with you as well. And yeah, if anyone wants to get my newsletter, I don't bombard people. It's a once a month thing, and it's I try to share some joy. So this was joyful tonight. Thank you so much, Jim. I really, really enjoyed talking to you.
I enjoyed talking to you too. I have a few things, Jennifer, I have to button up with my audience. You're free to leave if you choose to do that.
Listen to you button up.
Okay. I had guests scheduled for next week. Unfortunately, there are issues in the family, so they will not be making an appearance next week. So your Uncle Jim might be doing a solo broadcast next week. I have to pick a topic. If you have any ideas about a topic, drop me a line, and you never know. Your Uncle Jim might be talking about your topic someday. Any rate, I do have broadcasts scheduled from now until November. Lots of interesting people coming up, and I'll make sure that you know all about that before that happens. So again, I want to thank Jennifer. What a terrific broadcast. Very, very generous kidney advocate, and gives of herself, and just learned so much about FSGS and perseverance from this person. So I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll do something next week. Don't worry, your Uncle Jim's got nothing else to do on Friday night, so we'll come up with something. And I will talk to all of you soon. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.